but I think he's grooming his son to take over the organization, and that's part of it. And um, he wants him more involved, and he's already started that process. He has for a couple of years.
He is John McMullen. I am Jody McDonald, off chipper, ready today. Unlike yesterday. Again, I don't know what I've got to stop apologizing for this, but I'm not ready to go there yet. My bad just completely screwed up yesterday, made Johnny Mac do the heavy lifting. He's doing it again today because he does it every day, but somehow we'll get through the 2 hours. We talked extensively in the first segment, 40-minute segment, about the NFL and they're dealing with the lawsuits that they're facing by Brian Flores. It's not going away anytime soon, and it's going to pop up here on Birds 365. We're a football show. We're an Eagles show, and we're going to talk more about the Eagles than any other individual team. But it is a football show, and this has implications on the Philadelphia Eagles and every other National Football League team. So, again, if this is something that you don't want to pay attention to, it's something that bothers you or annoys you, sorry about it. I just kind of think it's necessary on this football show that we have to talk about it. But I also realize people like to talk about what's going on in the field. And we are just 9 days away now from the Super Bowl, which Eagles will not be playing in. But the Cincinnati Bengals will be in there, a team that was 4-11 and won last year, much like the Philadelphia Eagles. And they did a lot of things right and made a lot of smart moves. And sure enough, they ended up in the Super Bowl. So it certainly gives hope to you Eagle fans out there that that kind of off season can be had by the Philadelphia Eagles. It is ongoing right now, the off season down in Mobile, Alabama, where the Senior Bowl is taking place. The Eagles have a contingent down there. A bunch of the media guys from Philadelphia are down there because we couldn't get them to commit to come on our show today because they're busy being out of town. John, I went to the Senior Bowl once when I was a wee lad. I was just a production assistant at ESPN. I had no real responsibilities. My work was to just make sure that everybody had everything that they needed, who was actually doing stuff down there. But it was 30 some odd years ago. And it was, to me, as a new guy just in the media business, I was only at ESPN a couple of years at that point. I was 24 years old, something like that. It was so big and so impressive and so detailed and awe-inspiring. And now, having been part of the media for 30 years, it's another day. And yesterday was like a prime example with all the great places that teams have built. And you talk about what Dallas invested in building their unbelievable structures down in
The
Dallas,
star, yeah.
Minnesota, and everything else. This is old school. The Senior Bowl is old school. It's just on a college campus in a college town with no roof whatsoever. So here comes Mother Nature yesterday to come in and rain on everybody's parade. And I remember the couple of days I was down there, it just was awe inspiring. And now it's like, how the hell do they have one of the most important things and they get rained out? But that's exactly what happened yesterday. And I do kind of like the fact that it is old school, and you got to get your be ready to get your fingers dirty if you want to make it into the National Football League.
Yeah, the Senior Bowl is, and I'm glad because the NFL sort of pumped a lot of money into, I think it's the East West Shrine Bowl, and it's the same week. It's going on in Las Vegas, and people are saying, "Wow, Vegas," and it's going to be on the NFL Network, and it's going to change the Senior Bowl. It didn't change the Senior Bowl. Everybody still looks at the Senior Bowl as the game. Now we'll see if that continues down the road as they continue to try to shift things into more of their purview. I guess it would be, and generally they succeed in matters like that. So it's something to keep an eye on. And we people talk about the combine, and it's a similar type of atmosphere in Indianapolis where it's very close knit. Obviously, big NFL stadium, but uh, you know, you get an opportunity to meet agents and executives, and they're at the same bar as reporters, and you hear all this information. It's sort of like the old school. Um, and they're talking about taking that out to Los Angeles because they built a new stadium out there and they have a whole campus for NFL media on the stadium. So everything is changing. Uh, I'm a little disappointed I didn't go to the Senior Bowl this year. I've been to a bunch of them, but I haven't been there in about 5, 6 years. And I'm kind of like torn every time this week, every time of year, because I'm like, I really don't want to go down there. It's difficult to get to Mobile. It's a hassle. I've done it a bunch. Um, but then you miss and you see people seeing stuff that you don't see, and you start to go, man, I wish I was there. Julian Lurie was there for the Eagles. Yeah, I said Julian, not Jeffrey, which is kind of big news. As he tries to sort of groom him to take over the Eagles, his son, long term. Um, so there's always some stuff that's interesting, but even that's changing with the pandemic and everybody's farther away and it's not as close knit. You were there years ago, you know how close knit it was. Um, so everything's changing and it's usually for the worse, unfortunately.
But as I said, I've been there for a long time. They still do value it. I get this feeling, and again,
Yeah.
it's me all reporting. You actually have more conversation with people who are still traveling down there and going. Despite the fact that the NFL has tried to move some things in different directions, my buddy Rick Saratella from NFL Draft Bible is part of the All-Star game that they played last week out on the West Coast, the NFL PA Bowl. There are groups that are trying to, I don't want to use the word attack, but take chunks out of the Senior Bowl.
Oh, yeah.
But
the NFL being one of them.
They're not succeeding.
No, they aren't.
It's still the preeminent place for players to go to show their wares before the combine. It has been for decades. It used to be that's it. The Senior Bowl. There was nothing else. And these other All-Star games started to pop up and give players. And hey, any chance you get to get out there and show your wares and make a statement for yourself, I'm all for it. The more the better. Less is not. But I think it's actually unique that the fact that the Senior Bowl, despite the fact that others, and it might be because it's in mobile, as you just stated, who was it? It was one of the guys that I reached out to yesterday and couldn't get a hold of. He was driving to Mobile because flying is such a pain in the rear end. He was going to get in the car and drive it for 20 hours rather than actually fly, whatever. Yeah, Mobile is a tough place to get into, which is a pain in the butt, but that's where the teams are this week. You did mention, though, that Jeff Lurie is not there. And Jeff Lurie has been there in previous years. They've shown video of him again. I haven't been down there in decades, but you see him there with the whistle and he seems to be into it. He's smiling and everything else. And some people question whether Jeff Lurie was too hands-on, that an owner's place isn't necessarily at the Senior Bowl, that you should leave that to the people that you hire to do those type of things and make those type of decisions. You read anything into it above and beyond? Because yes, this is more often than not over the last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, draw your line wherever you want to. Jeff Lurie has been there more often than he hasn't been there. What do you think the reasoning was behind him passing this
year? Jeffrey's 70 years old.
That's what it is. You think it's an age thing, huh?
I mean, he's still, very active. I mean, he's, one of the few owners you will see at practice every day for the most part, unless he's traveling. So he's still very active. It's not like he can't go, but I think he's grooming his son to take over the organization, and that's part of it. And he wants him more involved, and he's already started that process. He has for a couple of years, and he wants to see. He wants him to see and get sort of cross-trained in every aspect of the organization, and that's his plan. His plan isn't to sell the team or have the team. You see what's going on in Denver, or have the team go into some disarray. his plan is to pass it to his son, and that's the long-term goal. And to do that, I mean, he's still very young, Julian. I think he's 26, 27. So it's not like Jeffrey's planning on stepping away tomorrow or 2 years from now. But you do have to be realistic as you get older in life, and he wants to make sure his son is ready to take over the Eagles when he is unable to do the sort of day-to-day duties it takes to run the Philadelphia Eagles. So he's just ramping up that process.
Now, how do you think that works? Again, this is the difference between Jody McDonald and John McMullen. John's a reporter. I'm a responder. I see things happen, and I come on here and on my radio outlet gigs, and I respond to what's transpiring. John is actually there covering the news and trying to get sometimes even ahead of the story. What do you think the marching orders are on Jeffery Lurie's son? Is he supposed to turn and walk the other way when he sees John McMullen and or any other significant Eagle beat reporter that he's not supposed to, certainly not allowed to talk to, not allowed to see, not allowed to acknowledge? How much under wraps is this young man?
Yeah, he's not made available to the media. I'm sure, Jeffrey talks, maybe twice, 3 times a year, and it's gotten even less during the pandemic. He sort of does a state of the team address before the season. Generally talks at the league meetings in years past. Obviously, if he fires a head coach like he did last year, he's got to talk. But, he's not first and foremost. He set up the structure where in season, the voice of the organization is Nick Sirianni, or the head coach at the time. And the off season is for Howie Roseman. Howie season, so to speak. And that's how he set it up. And, I would imagine he's trying to teach his son that he should run the organization in the same way.
Sure.
But, people are their own people, so to speak. And if he decides to do it in a different way, 15, 20 years down the road, that'll be up to Julian Lurie. But, it is interesting, to my knowledge, and I've talked to a bunch of guys down there. Howie's there, Nick's there, Nick Sirianni, Jeff Stoutland was there, would be the most high profile coach, and Julian Lurie. And I'm sure there's some personnel people, obviously, but that isn't going to get us many headlines. So it's interesting that it's a small cast and he's one of them.
If he's down there and his father's not down there, I think that's pretty significant. I think that lets everyone know that this is the future direction of the Philadelphia Eagles. When does the future actually kick in? None of us know. We're all just speculating on this. But Eagles have some big decisions to make in this upcoming draft. How are they going to use those draft picks? Who are they going to use them on? And they have a contingent of individuals down there evaluating. I wonder if Julian is actually helping them make the pick, whether they're going to go.
Don't go there, Jody. Don't go there.
Okay, if you say so. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. We are the Mac and Mac guys. Yes, it is a Birds 365 Thursday edition. We're not much further out from the Super Bowl. We'll kick that around a little bit when we come back, but continue to talk about the Senior Bowl and the Pro Bowl, which is down one Philadelphia Eagle, which no one should be surprised about. Jason Kelce decided to beg off, probably because he didn't want to have to answer any questions about whether he's going to be playing more football in a Philadelphia Eagle uniform, not an NFC Pro Bowl uniform. We'll come back and talk about that next here on Birds 365.
Go for